All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for round two. It's just after 3 o'clock here, Eastern Time. I'm streaming from the greater New York City area, in case you're wondering. And let's get this thing started, shall we? So let me just put my things here so I can see the comments. Okay, cool. So anyway, I had a nice session earlier today. We had a nice quick trade that happened to work out. I mean, it was on a 15-second time frame, which I don't like to trade, but it was an interesting trade. You should check out the stream if you haven't. Anyway, if you're new to this stream, here's how it goes. The first thing I'm going to do is run through the economic calendar. Second, we're going to go over the charts. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin because what a change we've had here compared to yesterday. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the analysis that I published yesterday and how we adjust that. Then we're going to talk about other markets like the Nasdaq, bond market, gold, oil, things like that to get some perspective and to see what kind of opportunities may be possible this week. On top of that, I'm going to use a Trade Scanner Pro to see if we can find any trades that are in progress and perhaps would offer a secondary entry or something like that. Like I showed earlier today, it was a secondary entry opportunity and it worked out nicely, right? So anyway, let's get started with that. So the first thing I'm going to do, as you know, is go over the economic calendar. Now, check this out, guys. Look at this. I have an economic calendar. How cool is that? So I can actually show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let's see. Can I make this bigger? Let's see here. I should be able to if I just go over here like this. All right. So let's go over these items, right? So Tuesday, tomorrow, which is the 24th, we have at 10 a.m. U.S. consumer confidence. That's usually not a big market mover, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Hey, Alex. Alex from Romania. How are you? I haven't seen you in a while. I was thinking about you the other day. Romania. So anyway, I love saying it like that. Anyway, so I got my new economic calendar here that I'm going to show off. It's just text. But what I like about this is there's no nonsense. There's no ads. There's no whatever. It's just text. Hey, A, good to see you again. A can't get enough. This is second round here for A. And you changed your avatar. Nice. Okay. So anyway, is he pretty angry? What's he angry about? He's always angry. Is he ever not angry? He's always angry about something. So yeah, it's very simple, no nonsense, just line items. And what's nice about this is it has the timestamps, which usually I don't have. And I'm like, guys, you have to check the timestamps. But come on, in this day and age, I shouldn't have to say that. So let's go over this further. Oh, he's long oil. Ah, well, he's not exactly Mr. Trader. Let's just put it that way. I've seen his antics. He's definitely not strong in the trader department. He needs to hire someone that can give him some better advice. Anyway, thanks for sharing, though. It's always interesting. So at 10 a.m., we have tomorrow at 10 a.m. also, we have Fed Chairman Powell testifying before the House Financial Senate Committee, House Financial what? Services Committee. All right. He's doing this tomorrow and he's doing this again on Wednesday at 10 a.m. So this is going to be very important if you day trade specifically, because for one, going into his testimony, the market can be very erratic because people don't want to take big positions going in. And during his testimony, the market is going to be sensitive to every word. If he gives any kind of hint, it can cause the market to move in a dramatic way, one way or the other. So it's not a good idea, in my opinion, to react to what he says. Let the market figure it out and then see if a trend develops as a result or something like that. I mean, that's how I would play it. And then see if you can find consistent momentum from there. Maybe he says something that's very bullish for the market and the market rallies the entire day, or opposite, right? But you want a trend, not just erratic movement all over the place, because that becomes it all just depends on how the market's feeling about every little word, and you can't, technical levels and charts won't really mean much in that environment if everything is dependent on tweets and words and things like that, right? So that's tomorrow, right? Is the first meeting. Wednesday is the second meeting. And then new home sales. I wouldn't worry about that. It's not important. And then Thursday, the 25th, we have durable goods. Again, not a big deal. See, that's why I like showing these, because you would think that these are some of the more important reports, but that's not a big market mover. That's at 8:30 a.m. So it's not even during the actual market, it's pre-market. So that's cool. GDP growth, again, not a big deal. And jobless claims, not a big deal. These aren't major market movers. So maybe it gives the market somewhat of a movement, but I wouldn't worry about those numbers. And then Friday, we have the U.S. personal consumption. That's the core PCE, right? At 8:30, the bottom one. Forget the top one. The PCE deflator, core PCE deflation, blah, blah, blah. That's core PCE. And the Fed uses that. See, even says here, key inflation gauge for the Fed. So that's important because of that reason. And that can cause surprises. Again, so that's at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So you want to be aware. These are the most important events that I pulled from the calendar. And even some of these are not that important. So please keep that in mind. The key ones are going to be obviously Chairman Powell's testimony and core PCE. That's really it. Everything else here, maybe it causes a little reaction, maybe not. But these are not numbers I would worry about. Like I would not manage swing trades or manage long-term positions based on those numbers. Okay, so that's the economic calendar. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Let me know if you like that. You like that I show it instead of just talking about it. I think the visual, just to see the words, I think just gives it more substance. That's my opinion. So anyway, all right, cool. So let's move on to the charts. Now, a lot of geopolitical drama that we've had. And, yesterday when I was doing my analysis on TradingView, I see this massive red candle, and I was like, we were pushing 98K. I said, this is tough because while at the moment it was a significant break, the candle had not closed yet. And there was still a few hours before it closed. So I wrote in my analysis, the illustration this here was I was anticipating if the momentum stayed intact, we could see 95K. But the momentum changed, right? And that's the key aspect to that. That's why it's very hard to write an analysis like that, because I don't know if the market's going to bounce. There were no signs. At the time that I wrote my analysis, this candle was solid red. And then it started to turn, right? So the way the candle closed is really the clue there. And that was back above 100K. And it was a pin bar. It was a pin bar off of a major support level. 100K is a significant support level. If anything, it's a psychological level. So pin bar, and now look at today's candle. Inside bar, and it's green. I mean, that's a swing trade setting up on this time frame. Never mind the other time frames. Now, also to note on Bitcoin here, this is a failed low situation, and this is how wave fours behave. This is a wave four. I really believe that this entire structure is a wave four, and we could be beginning possibly wave five here. There's no way to know until it breaks above the range high. There's no way to know until it breaks above there. But you could take chances. You can build positions, or maybe there's going to be some swing trade opportunities like there's one developing now. Maybe this thing continues. You don't have to wait until it breaks out to confirm wave five. You may get a pop-up and a pullback, right? And that might be another entry as well. But right now, I drew this little trend line here. That's the trend line that's in play. I call that a counter trend line because it's against the bigger picture trend. It's a bearish movement, but it's against the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture is clearly bullish. And then you have this movement right here. So another way you can go about it is when we break above that trend line, that would also be another catalyst or another reason to buy, another justification. So all I see are longs setting up here, whether they're more conservative or more aggressive. Now let's take a quick look at the 4-hour time frame and see what the 4-hour time frame shows. And let's put the Trade Scanner Pro on. And let's make sure I turn on all the controls here. You have to turn these on, right? I do that on every stream. And there's no signal here. We don't even have a heads up. We have nothing there on the 4-hour. But I bet you if I look around, I'll find one. Okay. Now notice this. This is the 1-hour time frame, right? Notice this up here. It says trend is bearish. right? That means a Trade Scanner Pro, unless I put it in counter trend mode, it's looking for shorts. So as you guys know, to work with something like this, for one, we should not be looking for shorts because the bigger picture does not agree with that. The bigger picture is a long. So we should ignore short signals. And what if we're aggressive, we should put this into counter trend mode, right? In such a situation, this would call for counter trend mode. Is there a signal? Yes, there's a signal. There's a couple of losing signals there, but look at this one, right? And that's right in line with the support level. And that's in line with the bigger picture being long. So that's how you'd have to work with something like that. It's not easy, but that's where it can help you. This is advanced. If you don't understand like these concepts, counter trend is going to be confusing. So I wouldn't use it if I were you. Instead, wait for a smaller time frame to just realign and then look for long signals from there. It's a lot easier, right? So the 4 hour and the 1 hour are not going to show that for a while because it says the trend is bearish. It's going to take some time for that to switch back to bullish. So if you don't want to wait, you could go to a smaller time frame, perhaps a 30-minute. Something is going to show bullish. Let's see, 30-minute, right? Is this bullish? Yeah, this one's bullish. See that? So on the 30-minute, you could wait for a long signal if you want to align with that bigger picture. Because remember, it begins with the bigger picture analysis, and that begins with the levels, right? Because we know the trend on the bigger picture has not changed. It's bullish. It's going to take a long time before this becomes bearish. So all we're looking for are reversal patterns. We don't want to fight this thing. Clearly, 100K is a support area, and this is the exact type of price action we are looking for here. Do you guys see that? Is that clear? So if you're looking for trades, for one, you could wait till this closes. Even if you don't use a Trade Scanner Pro, you don't have to use a Trade Scanner Pro. It's basically just a confirmation tool. But you can also use candlesticks as a confirmation. If this closes like this as an inside bar and you break the inside bar high, that's a long signal. But on this time frame, of course, your risk is going to be pretty steep. You'd have to use at least the candle low, at least, which is what? 99,677. So you're looking at least what, 3,000 points on this time frame. So if that's a little too high for you, you can go to a smaller time frame. And again, you'd have to work in counter trend mode or just look at this from that perspective. Does that make sense? Let me know if you have any questions. All right, now, so that's Bitcoin, right? So nice reversal there. Again, this is all geopolitical sensitive. And one of the points that I wanted to make, or that I made in my analysis on TradingView, is that you cannot react to the stuff that you read, and you can't go by any of that because all these clowns that were calling for Bitcoin, again, 100 million K by next week and all that other nonsense, I'm sure many of you that follow me, you realize that all of that is just hype. But the learning lesson here is that any little thing can just change the market. None of these clowns anticipated the geopolitical drama that we had over the previous few days. How could they? They don't have inside information. The only way you would know is if you had inside information, right? So Bitcoin reacted negatively, and that's that. So a chart can much better prepare you for changes, even though it's not going to help you anticipate the event. The event drove the price to an important level. And then it's just a matter of observing the behavior at that level because the market knows everything. The market will price in whatever. You have to throw your opinions out the window. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you're afraid of. None of that matters. All that matters is the market knows everything. And if the market shows this, that means things must be okay because this is a buy signal developing. Now, of course, look, this can fail. And that's why we use stops and we use risk management because there's no guarantee. But this thing right here is a very nice looking buy signal. And what you're looking at here, you can apply the same concept to any time frame. If I saw the same setup on a 5-minute chart with this type of pattern, it's a buy signal. It's just clear buy signal. All right. So again, one way to mitigate the risk in this situation is work on a smaller time frame. You know a buy signal is developing on the daily chart, so that should also give you a bias for your smaller time frames. If anything, one thing you should not be doing is shorting this thing. For sure, that's a very high risk thing to do at such a level, right? You're shorting a swing low off of a major support. bad place to be shorting, if anything. Anyone taking this trade or anyone considering taking a long in Bitcoin? I'm just curious. I'd love to hear from you. So let's move around now and let's talk about some other charts. Unless, of course, you have some questions, please let me know. I'm happy to answer. Let's take a look at, let's go to the Nasdaq, shall we? Or actually, let's look at the S&P. Start with the S&P. So we'll go to SPX, no, USD, right? We could start with that. And this is the S&P. Oh, I don't want this one. Hold on. I'll just go to ES. ES1. These are the futures. Okay. The futures are going to be a little more detailed because the futures show you overnight. Whereas, well, I mean, the CFD would show you overnight too, but it depends on the broker or the exchange, the data feed that you're getting. Some of them may not show the overnight. All right. Would like to see more price action develop first. Okay. Okay. Well, that's cool, eh? But I mean, that's a pretty convincing signal for me. I mean, the candle needs to close, of course, and the high, the inside bar high needs to be broken. But, and you know, I'm pretty conservative. So that's if I say it's a compelling signal that's developing there, you know it's coming from a conservative person. So anyway, now let's take this is the S&P, right, on the daily time frame here. And this is important because it's been getting very top heavy, as you can see in this area. It's consolidating. You see that? And this is a tricky spot, like as I've been pointing out, because the S&P has rallied back significantly compared to where we were just a few months ago. And in my opinion, this area is still a very high risk area for swing trade longs or any type of position trade. This also means stock investing. If you're investing in stocks or ETFs and you're buying now, or you're taking significant positions now, this is a bad area, in my opinion. Or I should say it's a high risk area because look where you are. All it takes, now again, obviously the market, number one, is resilient, or number two, the dollar must be going to zero because that's why this market has been so resilient. It's not that the market is strong. It's that the dollar is losing its buying power. You have to keep that in mind. This thing breaks, and it attempted to break that little trend line right there. This thing breaks. There's a lot of risk here. That's so if you're working with this as day trades, it doesn't matter. Plenty of opportunities. I wouldn't worry about this consolidation. You just want to find intraday lows, range lows, look for longs, whatever. It's not a big deal. But bigger picture, this is very risky. We start breaking these supports, on these futures, we start breaking. Obviously, it's going to break across the board with the index, the S&P index and all other stuff. They're all the same. This thing starts breaking. The question is, well, how far can it go, right? What are some important levels to look at? Well, you don't even have to draw the retracements. You can just cut this structure in half here. I know this may seem simplistic, but all you have to do is that, right? That's a pretty significant level right there. And what level is that? 5601. So that is a good, 400 points from where we are right now. That would be a pretty significant move. Now, I don't expect that to happen in one move. That could take a month to play out, especially at the speed that this thing is moving these days. This thing barely moves. So, but that would be a good area, or anywhere in this area right here, 56, I guess 57, that area right there would be a good place to be looking for longs as far as a pullback goes for swing trades, or if you're looking at option positions and things like that on the long side. Now, right now, look, this market's obviously strong. It's up 41 points. That's a lot for the S&P. 41 points, it's ridiculous. That's a pretty decent amount intraday. So this may break out and it may continue somewhat higher as the week unfolds. Remember, we have Powell tomorrow and Wednesday, so things can change real fast. But you're still looking at these levels up here as a notable resistance, and that's 6160 area, right? That's a good 100 points from where we are right now. So plenty of day trade opportunity. Just swing trades and position trades, I would be much more conservative. I wouldn't bother with these levels. Does that make sense? So that's the S&P, which implies that is a reflection of the stock market. or at least the main stocks. Now, let's take a quick look at, and that also represents the Nasdaq. I don't have to show you the Nasdaq. Let's take a look at something like oil, right? CL1. This is the oil futures. Now, oil, again, oil is very sensitive to all this drama, very sensitive because it affects oil straight up. It affects oil. So let's just go to the weekly time frame on oil and just see where we are here on the bigger picture, right? Because this is how the week is starting out. Look at this. Look at this resistance, right? Just came right off of that. Look at that. So that's interesting. Now, the fact that such a heavy duty rejection like that, again, this can turn right around. It's all going to be dependent on how things unfold. But if things go well or whatever, this thing's going to go back to its lows because it was only spiking because they were anticipating shortages of oil and blah, 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 right? I don't have to get into the details on that. So this is an outside bar or bearish engulfing candle on the weekly time frame. Definitely not bullish. I would not be looking for longs on this thing. This also has an effect on inflation. So if energy prices get back to their lows, that means less inflation theoretically, and maybe Powell will give some hints about that. I know there's been a lot of conflict with Powell and cutting interest rates. And I don't understand why he would or why he should cut interest rates in an environment that's generally inflationary. Maybe if oil goes to like $50 or something, I don't know. But anyway, so oil is not looking positive here, not looking bullish with this bearish engulfing. You have to anticipate that with momentum like this, right? And that's the weekly. If we're not getting any reversals, right? I mean, even the daily chart looks horrible, right? There's nothing here. So, it's minus what? 5 points today. There's no recovery. There's no pin bar. Even if we get an inside bar tomorrow, I'd be looking for a break of that low, right? If we got one of these patterns right here, we got something like this, like a bullish inside bar, I'd be looking for a continuation pattern going lower, simply because we have that red outside bar, which is a sign of a lot of momentum, right? Oh, okay, I see now. That's why he's angry, huh? Well, who told him to buy the top? I'm sure a lot of people are happy to see that he's getting hammered. But whatever, he's got $10 billion. He could sell one of his cars. He'll make his money back. He could do some more, what were those porn things he was doing, those porn chat room things. He'll make his money back. So, yeah. He should start following me. He would probably, I would imagine he probably wouldn't like me very much. I would imagine. But anyway, yeah, all right. Yeah, I could send him some good analysis here, help him out a bit. Anyway, so that's oil. Thanks for letting me know, Alex. So let's move along here. Let's take a look at gold. XAUUSD gold. So this is the daily chart on gold. Now, gold has not really had much of a reaction here. Yeah, no, he would probably call me all kinds of names, and and he'd probably put me like in a boxing ring or something, and I'd have to fight him, or not even him. He wouldn't have the time he would put someone else in the ring, his trainer or something. So anyway, just to make sure I know my place. But when I go to Romania, maybe he wouldn't. He probably wouldn't want to see me. That's why I'd go there, Alex, to visit you and what's his name, you and Schwartz and all my Romanians, because you guys love me at least. So yeah, peak masculinity. Yeah, yeah, not for me. I grew up like a little girl. Romania. I have to go there and have some mitate. So let's take a look at gold here a bit. You would think gold would be a little more reactive, right? But it's not. It's somewhat up a bit, but this is not much for gold considering where gold has been. So look, what could we say about gold? Clearly, the structure is bullish. Higher low, right? Higher low, higher low. Even there's a higher low right there. That's all bullish. We haven't broken any supports. We're consolidating. There's a resistance up in here. This structure, I mean, if it doesn't break any of these supports, obviously it looks like it's poised to go higher. So I don't know how you would trade gold. Look, there's a pin bar to go long. Let's make this bigger. There's a pin bar to go long. The pin bar high is broken. So there's a long signal in gold on this time frame as we speak. There's nothing on the Trade Scanner Pro, obviously. I probably have to go to a smaller time frame. Let's take a look. Let's go to a 4 hour. Let's just see. Is there anything here? Oh yeah, look at this. Look at this. The Trade Scanner Pro. And look, this is a perfect example of what I wanted to show too. Look at this. So the Trade Scanner Pro called gold long back here, right? When was that? That was on the 18th, Wednesday. Now, what if you weren't paying attention to this? Look where gold has gone since then. First of all, it almost got stopped out, almost went to the stop. So, like I say in my day trade streams, you don't take the initial trade, you use it as a heads up. And then what happens is you're waiting for a situation exactly like this. It pulls back, no trades, no trades. You're waiting for some sort of buy signal. Now, examining these candles a bit, I mean, there's some fake outs here. You could have taken this pin bar, right? You would have gotten faked out there. There was another pin bar over here to go long. That one may have stopped you out. Depends on where your stop was. If you had waited and not taken anything and we just waited for this green candle break of this bearish candle high, because basically you're breaking the pin bar again, right? This candle in between, it's not an inside bar, but I like to treat those as inside bars. It's not an inside bar because obviously it's not inside the range. But the thing is, this candle is sort of a meaningless candle. It was a bearish pin bar, but that went nowhere. It never went below the bullish pin bar. And then the next candle that opened after that never even broke the low. It just went above, right? It went above. So that might be for more advanced traders. The point is, this trade occurred. Look how close to the stop it occurred. The stop is on the bottom here. See that line? So that was very little risk, relatively speaking. So that was one possibility. So let's say you got stopped out once over here, but then this would have been another possibility. But let's say you missed that. Okay, you missed it. And then you watch it go back up to the blue line. This could have been a hard time. If you waited for the blue line again, that may have stopped you out. Right? So that's another potential stop. But then look at this. Look at this pin bar right here. Pin bar. Again, and this one would not have stopped you out. This one would have been beautiful and still in play. Also, you had a break of the blue line here again, which of course is going to be riskier. That you're going to take the most risk when you buy the blue line, because remember, your risk is defined by the stop. But look at this. So out of the 3 opportunities, we'll just say 3. I won't count the most recent break of the line here, because look, this pin bar touched the blue line and then it failed. So it's tricky, right? Usually you should wait for the candle to close, but let's just say you took that. That may have stopped you out. So out of the 4 trades, I mean, 2 potential stop outs, one win, or maybe it's still in, or 2 potential wins, and this one trade is still in play. If you took this pin bar over here, that trade is still in play. So my point is, you can use the Trade Scanner Pro to get multiple entries. You can even use these type of situations to add. You know, like for example, let's say I got long after the pin bar break over here. And let's say I was long. Okay, I'm long, let's just say 1 contract. We're getting an inside bar now, right? It's retested the blue line. What if the next candle looks like this, right? The next candle, what if it looks like this? I would use that as an opportunity to add. If that was a green candle, I would add. And there was a nice example of that on the 15-second time frame, which I demonstrated earlier today, where I took the trade as it was like messing around after it pulled back a bit. And then I saw an opportunity to add, and I put on a second contract, right? So that's what I would do. Again, this is a 4-hour time frame. So this takes a while for it to play out. Look, I mean, it's been like, what, 4 days, 5 days for this entire process? So this doesn't just apply to gold. You could use this for anything. You could use this for your altcoin if you're watching an altcoin. You could use this for whatever, a stock, doesn't matter. Same idea. So that's how you use the reentry filter. Now, let me know if you have questions about that. Okay, also, that's gold, right? So gold, clearly gold is bullish. No question, I would not be shorting gold. Right? And the bigger picture, remember the bigger picture completely aligns with that. As a reminder, the Trade Scanner Pro is a confirmation tool. So I should be doing my bigger picture analysis first and then looking for signals that align with it, not the other way around, right? And that signal perfectly aligns with being long. And this thing says nothing but long. There's nothing bearish about this yet, all right? So that's gold. Let me know if you have any questions about gold. All right, I'm going to erase these lines. And let's talk about now the bond market, because the bond market is pretty important, as we all know. So we're going to look at ZN1. Now, I'm not an economist, but you don't need to be one to evaluate a bond market chart. This is the 10-year note futures. This is I mean, there are a number of bond products that you could look at, fixed income, if you want to be fancy about it, products. But the 10-year note is a good gauge because it's used for a lot of borrowing and stuff like that. It's the gauge that's used for a lot of transactions. So the 10-year note, now look at this. It's still nowhere, right? Prices, 10-year note prices going higher means yields going lower. That's what that means. So lower interest rates, but not by much. I mean, look at this. We really haven't done anything here. We're just kind of, that just looks like a corrective pattern of some kind, right? And we're fooling around this resistance area, fooling around up here. Look, the Trade Scanner Pro had called a short recently, and that failed. Okay. And we're just fooling around this resistance right here. So there's really not, we can't really say much about this. There's nothing happening here. Because to really get something out of the bonds, we need to see like a market reaction. Because remember, the bonds are like way ahead of the market. So it takes a while for the market to catch up to, or to feel the effects of the bond market. So we need to see extreme prices here. If we're pushing up here, that means rates are going lower, right? That means rates are bearish at that point, and this would be transitioning into a bullish trend. But if this goes the other way, that means rates are rising, right? And obviously, the administration wants lower rates. So, but the bond market right now isn't really giving much of a signal of anything. It's trying to break out higher. It's trying to change. It's trying to be bullish, which means bearish for yields. Let's take a look at the yields. US 10Y. And look, there's a signal in play here, a long signal, which obviously isn't working yet. But again, this could be an opportunity, a secondary entry opportunity, right? But I'm not taking trades in the bonds or bond yields. I'd have to take a trade in the bond futures, and I'd have to do the inverse of this. So no need to be confusing here. But yields are pulling back again. All right, let's look at the weekly chart. This is the weekly chart. It's a signal there as well. We're nowhere. We're nowhere. We're just in the middle of nowhere. And the general trend is still bullish. Kind of like Bitcoin, it has this broad bullish trend. We're going nowhere here. So it needs to choose. Hey, Hussein, how are you? That's okay. That's why the party's just getting started now that you're here. All right. Check out my stream from earlier. I had a good trade today. So bonds, nothing going on. Right? Now maybe Chairman Powell will say something tomorrow or Wednesday that will affect this. But right now, there's nothing here. There's really nothing to say. So let's move on. Let me know if you have any questions about the bonds. So let's take a look at the dollar index, because the dollar index, this is where things get weird. Okay? The dollar index should have a relationship with the bonds. We're going to go to the weekly time frame. And when interest rates rise, the dollar should be going higher. The dollar index should be going higher, which remember is a US dollar compared to a basket of currencies. When interest rates go lower, the dollar should go lower, right? So rates are trying to, as we saw, rates are trying to go lower. Bond prices are trying to rally. They're trying. So that doesn't look good for the dollar. It's like the dollar doesn't win either way here, right? We saw rising rates and the dollar wasn't rising. Now we're seeing lowering rates, and it's not like the dollar has an inverse relationship. Most likely, lower rates means more inflation, which means lower dollar, because that's what lower inflation, that's what more inflation means. Dollar loses buying power against everything. Basket of currencies, against milk, against eggs, against everything. So this does not look like a good, this doesn't look bullish here, what's happening. All right. We have this most recent momentum is lower highs and lower lows. It looks like we have this little situation right here where it wants to break this consolidation lower. That's what it looks like. So I don't know. Maybe Powell turns this around. He says something, but I don't know. He's not in a hurry to raise rates. I'm sorry, cut rates. So I don't know. It's very confusing. But the explanation for this is investors are losing faith in the dollar. So that's why when rates rise, the dollar doesn't rise, because investors demand a higher premium for the risk that they have to take. So for that reason, rates are rising when they shouldn't be, or whatever. Rates are rising, right? And the dollar is not rising with it as they should be, as it should be. So this is a strange thing. And the typical economic relationship is not happening here. So you have to monitor this, because a serious break here can mean wild moves for the markets, right? I mean, if the dollar breaks lower, for one, that's actually should put bullish pressure on things like the S&P and the Nasdaq, because as the dollar loses its purchasing power, it costs more dollars to buy Nasdaq or S&P or oil or whatever, right? So just keep that in mind. When you're wondering why the stock market just keeps making new high after new high after new high, like, I don't understand. We have this deficit, we have this, we have that. It could be the weakening dollar. Most likely that's what it is. So just keep that in mind. That can affect stocks as well. They say if we have all this inflation, you can't keep your money in a savings account. You have to buy something with it. So people buy stocks, right? The big stocks, the magnificent ones. Anyway, all right. So that's the dollar index. So let's take a look. We covered all those. Let's talk about some altcoins, shall we? So let's take a look at something like XRP. XRP USD. That's a popular one. If there's any altcoins you guys want to see, let me know. I know XRP, you guys follow this one. I think Hussein follows this one. Let me know if there's another altcoin you want to see. I was doing some homework and I came across I was looking for like low capitalization coins that have potential. And some interesting ones came up. Like there's this one called JoyStream, which again, I'm not promoting it or anything, but they're trying to basically give more power to the creators and more control over your content and stuff like that, compared to a centralized platform like YouTube. And they only have a capitalization of like $1.5 million or something like that. But clearly they're doing something wrong, because the coin has like no potential. For me, ADA and okay. Oh, so it's Cardano. Okay. What's what is that? SEI? Oh, is that SUI? Okay, I could take a look at that. Sure. And Cardano. All right, we don't have to talk about XRP. I mean, real quick, I'll just do it real quick since I have it on here, because not much has changed here. But you have to understand that altcoin season, right? The bond market could be behind altcoin season, but as we saw with rates lowering, that's a good thing. But again, they're barely moving. So we need to see a significant change in rates to start to bolster these things. I'll take a look. I'll take a look. So again, when it comes to these altcoins, stick with your weekly time frames. There's really no reason to look at smaller time frames in this, because we're not going to day trade. I'm not going to day trade these. These are more for like buy and hold investing type strategies, right? I think you guys would agree. So when you're doing that, you want to look at broader structures and you want to look at levels, support and resistance levels, right? For XRP, it's like this level right here. It's pretty clear. What is that? $1.86, $1. It's around $2. What's the low over here? 190. This thing was at 190 a week ago. So I mean, that area is a significant area. There's a lower high here, but if this support holds, that's a broader higher low. It's a wave 4, just like Bitcoin. Very similar to Bitcoin. So just something to keep in mind there. They're still pretty bullish unless the support breaks. If the support breaks, then the party's over. All right. Oh, okay. I think it's okay. Oh, okay, cool. I don't know anything about it, but all right, hey, we'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it. All right. So, well, Grego, I'm not wishing for anything. You don't want to wish. You just want to be open, right? You want to keep an open mind, and you just want to be aware, like if how much risk you're willing to take, and if something breaks, a support breaks, you just have to put that into perspective. How much do you have on it? If you don't have a big position on, perhaps you can add some more. Just realize that all of these coins, I don't care which coin it is. If it's an altcoin, it's higher risk. And the possibility of going to zero is always a possibility you have to consider, in my opinion, when you're dealing with these. All right. Come on, guys. No wishing here. All right. Let's take a look at Cardano. Well, let's see. Who was for A? Was A first? Okay. I'll do A and then we'll do Cardano. Let me just see who was. I want to do it in order over here. So, Cardano. All right. So SEI. We'll do SEI and then we'll do Cardano. So SEI USDT, SEI USDT. So now you guys see how I do this analysis, right? Do you guys, just tell me in the chat, do you guys also practice a similar technique as I show you guys here? I mean, I'm going through the same routine every time. I'm looking at trend, right? Structure, lower highs, lower lows. I'm looking at that, right? Then I'm looking at levels. And then I'm making a determination based on that. Are you guys doing a similar thing? I'd just love to hear. So here is SEI. Now, I don't know what they do. I'm going to have to research them a bit because when it comes to these coins too, knowing what their fundamental background can be helpful because it's all about, what do they call it? Narrative. That's the buzz. Well, this is the AI narrative, or this is the tokenization narrative. They always got to come up with these fancy, ridiculous words. Narrative. Okay, no, it's just a theme, thesis. It's all the same nonsense. Everyone just pretends to be smarter than they are. Come on with that nonsense. This is why they don't like me when I go to those networking events in New York, because it's all full of those type of people. They don't like me, man. They don't like me. And I don't even say anything. They just don't like me. They can just tell. They can just tell that I'm not into the pretension. I'm not into the pretense. They could just see it. They don't like me. All right. Anyway, so I went to this event a couple of weeks ago. No one would even talk to me. As soon as so what do you do? I trade. Oh, for who? For myself. Oh, nice to meet you. And they'd walk away. Literally, they'd leave me there like, I'm like, oh, great. Never even told me what you do. All right. So enough of my networking events. So let's talk about SEI. So this thing, so there's nothing on. All right. So we'll start with the weekly time frame. Now, when you're using the Trade Scanner Pro, it can be helpful to use smaller time frames because it's going to give you a definition of risk and a profit objective and things like that for swing trades. Not exactly for investing. I wouldn't really use it for investing, but all right. Yeah, well, that's what they're saying about me. That's what they're saying about, because I don't go along with the pretense. So, all right, SEI. First of all right, I'm looking around here. All of this back here, I mean, this is bearish, right? All of this is pretty bearish, and it went to these lows. Now, interestingly enough, now I'm curious, what brought your attention to this? Because you do have some sort of attempt of a changing structure here, right? That's a higher low. So that's a good sign for longs right there, because theoretically, if this thing was weak, this thing should have went for the low. It should have at least tested the low, if anything. You see that? And it produced a higher low. So that's a good sign on the weekly. That's certainly a potential change. It doesn't guarantee that the trend has reversed, but it's certainly a change in structure. So what you want to look for here, but only one of us is right. Hold on. So you're saying, I'm just going back to your conversation here. So you're saying trend and support and resistance on higher time frames, then market structure. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's the same thing. Now, okay. So all right, so it's getting, I guess it's starting to follow, maybe a correlation is developing with Bitcoin. I mean, look, going back a bit, yeah, like what is this on? Oh, this is on Binance. Okay. So here's what I would say. You have a potential change taking place. So I'm just curious again, was this something you found like in a chat room or some, how were you able to come across this? It's certainly a change. If you break that resistance right there, which is 27 cents, 27 and a half, then that would certainly be a welcome sign. Also, you know, with this higher low, you have a bullish trend line that's now in progress, right? Trend lines could be helpful because they can give you a point in the future where you can anticipate some type of reaction. It doesn't guarantee you'll get it, but it gives you a reference point. And the bearish trend lines that were here are broken. So you do have a change taking place. And if you've been buying, I don't know if you've been buying this thing, but investment wise, this would be a good place to start because you're coming off of this higher low. It's showing some progress here. Again, next week it could start working its way back toward the lows. That's why you don't go all in. You take a small bite, but you can actually plan some dollar cost averaging levels based on what's happening here. Like the swing low over here, that would be a good spot to add. The low, this low over here would be another spot to add. But again, you're putting on small bites because if it's going against you, you don't really want to be aggressive with that, right? You don't want to be aggressive. Or if you're flat, those would be a good places to start. Because remember, this is bigger picture stuff, right? And if it starts breaking that resistance, that would also be another place to add. You just have to figure out how much you add is all going to depend on how much you plan to invest altogether. That makes sense? People talk about it occasionally, watching it to see how it goes. Okay. Oh, okay, cool. 21 cents. Okay. I like it. I mean, I have to Google it. I have to find out like more of their background. And also you should know some of the tokenomics. I'm not familiar with any of it. I'm sure you are, but I'm just curious. I'll look it up. You know, you want to know how many coins are in circulation and all that kind of stuff, the market cap and whatever, because that'll give you some gauge of potential. Like I was doing that with JoyStream. I was like, oh, I never heard of this JoyStream. Let me look up some of the details. And based on like how many coins they have in circulation and stuff like that, it would take like a $1 billion investment just to get it to go up to like $1, because it's less than a penny or something. It's like a fraction of a penny. So I'm like, wow, that's a good price. You could buy a lot of it, but it would really take a serious catalyst to step in. Someone would have to, like Jeff Bezos would have like, oh, we're going to buy JoyStream. Then you'd see that thing go up to $1 or something like, because all the money will pour into it, right? So what is the potential for something like that happening? I mean, if you think about it, a coin like that, who are they going up against? Google and Amazon. I mean, you know, so I guess if Amazon or Google were to invest in it and say, okay, we like the technology, it makes sense. But the thing is, I don't know why they would do that when it basically takes power away from them. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not good at figuring out stuff like that. I'm more of a technical trader, as you guys know. But anyway, just some of a point that I'm making about looking up what's available, what information is out there, because a lot of these altcoins really depend on their marketing, their story, right? All that kind of stuff. Speaking of story, let's take a look at Cardano. So does this make sense, A? Does this answer your questions? I given you some perspective on this? Let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see about this. Now, let's take a look at Cardano. So ADA. Oh, actually, before I do that, let's just take a quick look at a 4-hour time frame just to see if there are any signals here. 4-hour. Let's take a look at the daily time frame. Anything? Nothing. Notice the daily time frame, it says trend is bearish, right? So this is something where you would wait for this thing to turn bullish. That would be a great sign. if that turns bullish, and then it'd start giving you long signals. Look, it even gave you a short signal back here. Interesting. So the Trade Scanner Pro still sees it as bearish, but I wouldn't agree with that higher low in place like that. That's where you have to use your own judgment, and it all begins with the structure. Make sense? The Trade Scanner Pro then confirms that. All right, I don't have to tell you that. You know that. Let's take a look at Cardano. So ADAUSD T. All right. Ooh, yeah, I see what you mean, Hussein. What's the story with this? So let's go to the weekly. All right. So actually, you want to know something, Hussein? It's good that it looks bad, and here's why. This could be a buying opportunity here. This could be a buying opportunity. So you don't have to wish and hope. Look at this. So you're in this area right here. Okay. Like if I was flat Cardano, which I am, I don't own any Cardano, this would be a good place to consider buying it because this is a failed low possibility or a double bottom situation, high or low. So this isn't a wave 4 because there's really no wave 1 to actually no wave 1. If we call this wave 1, then it's overlapped. So if that's the case, then this is not an impulse relative to this price action back here, but it could be starting a new impulse, meaning this may be wave 1, right? And wave 2 can correct 100% of wave 1 if we use that as a reference. But it's very subjective in that sense. So I can't, I wouldn't bank on that. All I would say is that's when the wave counts get confusing like that, then ignore them and refer instead to the price structure, because the price structure, in my opinion, is always reliable. It can always give you an idea of what's more likely. It can give you a much better idea. So what I see here is the double bottom failed low, and relative to this structure here, it's a higher low. So those are all bullish signs. It's a bullish structure if it can follow through on the bullish side. So what you need, this is the weekly, so it's just starting out. You need this candle to close strong. This is what you need, or at least give you an inside bar this week, and then next week you break the high of the inside bar. If you get that, that's a long signal on the weekly. So think about what catalysts, what would it take to develop something like that? Maybe you need Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin unfolds in its wave 5. Wave 5 extends. You're probably going to see some positive price action here. The only thing that I don't like about this is when we compare it to Bitcoin, Bitcoin is potentially on its highs, right? I mean, it's at 101, 102, whatever. But Bitcoin could spike and work its way back up. Where is this thing going to go? Like this thing's having a hard time. If it's relatively weak, then even if Bitcoin rallies spectacularly, this thing is obviously behind. So it's relatively weak, which the problem with that is if Bitcoin instead breaks below 98, this thing is probably going to break because it's relatively weak. Does that make sense? So I don't know if that will help you as far as managing risk. Because of that particular possibility, and since you own some, maybe it would be a good idea not to add because you have enough risk on. Because of that relative weakness, wait until this thing starts showing more strength. What you probably need for Cardano is you need some kind of news catalyst specific to Cardano to get this thing going. So this would be good. This would be an investment opportunity for someone that wants to get some exposure to it, that has no Cardano, and realizes that this thing is relatively weak, and essentially you're playing a news game, because that's the only thing that's really going to get this thing going. You're at a good level though. This is a great level to be buying, but if it breaks this level, I would be not looking to add more. That's for sure, because that would be confirming weakness. Does that make sense? Okay. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much. You don't have to, you don't have too many choices here. Do you think that Cardano moves really fast under that support? I know it looks bad. It certainly looks bad. So in that sense, it looks bad because you have this momentum here, right? That's why it looks bad, because that's pretty sharp momentum on the weekly time frame. So it's going to depend. Look, now the thing is, if it was going to continue in a harsh manner, we shouldn't be seeing this hesitation right here. I mean, it's only 1 day of data. I mean, look at that. But we shouldn't be seeing that. This is the daily time frame. This thing should just keep going. We should not see a pin bar. Pin bar means someone stepped in. Someone bought that. Or a number of people bought into that. That's what a pin bar means. So if it was truly weak, it should have blown right through. We shouldn't be seeing this. Just like Bitcoin, right? That Bitcoin, it's the same type of pattern. It should have continued after breaking 100K and then pushing 98. It should have continued. It should not be back at 102. So that means it's a fake out. That means most likely we're going to see a spike back up to 105. That's where I would bet. I would bet on that rather than betting on a pushback to 95K, because the price action is just not aligned with that right now. And if Bitcoin is being sensitive to all the geopolitical stuff, then I guess it'll carry some of these coins with it. But that thing is, Cardano is it's an altcoin and it's acting relatively weak. So if Bitcoin can do something good, maybe it helps this thing not break. You know, so, but Hussein said he's just going to wait it out. I mean, the only choices you really have is you bang out what you have, right? Which obviously is not something you want to do. You lighten the position, you take a partial loss to reduce it. So in case this thing goes lower, you don't have as much exposure, and then you can always buy it back at a better price. That's one possibility, right? Or just let it go to zero. That's another. I know that's not the one you want to hear, but you have to be open to the idea with these altcoins. Now, I mean, Cardano's it's a popular coin, so it's hard to believe it would go to zero, but you have to keep an open mind with these. So I mean, you said something, it looks scary. That's actually a good thing. The fact that it looks that way usually means that the selling activity is usually over. When it looks its worst, that's usually the best time to buy. And it's the opposite with the buying time. When it looks its best, it's usually the worst time to buy. And I tell people that all the time, and they always give me a hard time about it. When Bitcoin is on its highs, the first thing I come out and say, don't buy it here. Don't, but it's going to go to 150 million K because Michael Saylor said so. Don't buy it. I don't care who said what. Don't buy it. If you go back to when the Bitcoin conference, they were all blowing smoke up each other's, you know what? Bitcoin was at 108. Oh, this is going to be by 120 in 5 minutes. And here we are. We pushed 98K. I'm sure, it's just noise. Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, it's a little. Oh, buy some more. Go take out a loan and buy some more Bitcoin. I guarantee it'll go higher, right? That's what they're probably telling each other until Bitcoin really punches them in the face, right? Again, markets are random. So accept that idea first. There's no way to know where they will be. And for them to come out and guarantee that Bitcoin's going to do this and do that, you have to be a fool to believe these people. But people like to be lied to. So, yeah. So that's the thing. No, and that's, you know what, that's okay to wait for some sort of confirmation. That's okay. Like, obviously, you don't want to step into the low. For me, I see a little bit of strength here, but this is just potential reversal. It doesn't guarantee that the momentum has changed, right? So that's a possibility. That would be what I would consider an aggressive entry, right? You break above the high of that pin bar, that's an aggressive entry. But strength would be more like what your coin, that SUI coin, looked like, where you have a high, like it popped up a bit and then produced a higher low. That's a much better sign of strength than this. Does that make sense? Because then from that higher low, you should see a higher high, which that's a much better confirmation. You're not getting the best prices, but now you're at least getting a confirmation of change of structure. So you don't need the best prices to make money. If there's going to be a broader move, a broader structure change, like, I mean, look back here. There was a higher low back here, right? And it worked out for a little while until it reached that lower high area. Okay. So the structural change on a daily time frame doesn't guarantee anything, because there was a brief change there and it turned around. So what do you do? Right? When you get the failed high here, what do you do? That's where you should at least maybe have some levels. That's why I always encourage people to take profits, When you have some profit, take some green off the table. Unless you're like, oh, I'm going to be in this for 5 years. All right. But then you got to deal with this. You got to deal with all the risk that comes along with that. Does that make sense? So that's Cardano. So there's some good to it, but there's still, yeah, it's still a little early. And these things depend on easy money, meaning we need low interest rates. That would be a good thing for Cardano, or specific news for Cardano, or something else that gets altcoin season going. It doesn't have to be interest rates, but there needs to be something favorable, some sort of catalyst, some sort of narrative, a new narrative. All right. So Grego, if we check an XRP, all American projects have very correlated patterns. So maybe it's something not so bad, especially for Cardano, but generally for USD-based altcoins. Yeah, right. Because I mean, they typically all move the same. The altcoins move as a group. So it's like, how do you invest in that when they're all highly correlated? You have to find specific things that you like that give it the potential. Like for example, like with that example I was talking about earlier, Joystream, what makes them unique? And you have to believe in their vision, and then they have to be able to produce what they're producing and whatever, and maybe it'll be a success. But there's a lot of work that goes into that, and the coin is not doing that great, right? And there's a lot of work that goes into those type of projects. So you have to find some unique things about the altcoin that separate it from others, that you believe gives it potential. Maybe you're a developer and there's something about this ecosystem or something else that maybe other investors are overlooking. Like some of these coins are relevant to gaming, right? Like I'm not into all these details, and maybe that gives them more potential than something that's into tokenization, like Ondo, for example, right? So, and what theme starts to gain more traction? Like tokenization is a thing that's happening. Like they're trying to tokenize everything. So there may be some more potential there in the tokenization ones, as an example. Yeah. Yeah, let's take a look. Right, talk about complete nonsense. But that, I believe, that has a very high market cap. It was mentioned. I was mentioned in a list. This is complete nonsense, man. Okay, let's take a look. This is complete nonsense. So here's on MEXC. Let's take a look at the weekly. I mean, talk about a society that's in trouble. And if this is a reflection of society, man, we're in trouble. If this is if this is taken as an asset, you've got to be joking. Okay, how many billions of dollars this is worth, or $1 billion capitalization? I don't know what the capitalization is, but I know it's something ridiculous for a coin that's nothing more than a name, right? So I mean, look, the chart looks better than Cardano, and Cardano is a serious project. So look at this thing, right? I mean, so you have this here, well, that's bullish, right? In terms of wave count, let's just look at the wave count. 1, this is 2. That definitely looks like a 2. This is not a 3, because 3 needs to be beyond wave 1. So we're not 3 yet, but this could be the first leg of 3. Or the second leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, so this could be the 5th leg of wave 3 developing, which should, I mean, this thing needs to be massive, right? This could be wave 5 of the 3, and then you'd see a broader wave 4. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, yeah, 2, right, yeah. You could look at it that way. But if you don't want to look at the wave counts, I like to use the wave counts as a broader map. But that aside, this is a pullback. It's a higher low. And it looks very similar to the other coins. It's just the general structure looks better. All right? I'm just saying, Hussein. I'm just saying. Cardano is a serious project, and look at this. This is a joke. I'm making a joke about this one. This is nonsense here. And look at this thing. So this pattern right here looks just like the Bitcoin pattern. Looks just like it. And look at this. Pin bar. And the Trade Scanner Pro is giving a heads up. And there's actually a long signal without the confirmation. You broke the pin bar high. So there is a long signal on the daily time frame on Fartcoin. Come on, man. And let's just look at the 4 hour. Any signals there? No, this is still bearish up here. Okay. So this thing needs to realign, but this thing is bullish. It's strong. I mean, if you took the name away, I would be like, wow, that's a good looking chart. It's just hard to take something like this seriously. But anyway, yeah, thanks for bringing it up there, A. You know, I mean, I remember Alex used to joke a while back about toilet paper coin. So I guess that could go along with fart coin. Toilet paper coin. All right. I think I'm going to invent that one. When I invent it, I'll put it out on one of those websites, one of those rug websites, and you guys can buy it. You guys can buy my toilet paper coin. So anyway, it's a good looking chart here. So yeah, I mean, all jokes aside, this is a strong looking chart. This is bullish. There's a long signal there. So, you know, if you want to fart around, here's your chance. Pee-pee. Oh, Pepe. You know, when I was at the ICTC, I kept calling it Pee-pee coin. They're like, no, man, it's Pepe coin. Pee-pee Pepe. Come on, man. Pee-pee sounds funnier. Pee-pee coin. What's Pee-pee up to here? Oh, this thing, this thing, this thing doesn't look good. It should have produced the failed low. That's not a failed low. It's trying, but you have this bearish trend line now in play. So I wouldn't do anything with that. I mean, if you're looking for a brief swing trade, it's aggressive. Yeah, it's aggressive. Yeah, yeah, it's aggressive. I would leave this one alone. No pee-pee today. Yeah, fart is much better. Can't believe I'm talking about financial assets here, people. Come on, this is embarrassing. All right, so I'm going to leave you with that. Enough of this embarrassment. So back to some serious coins. I mean, look, this looks just like that fart coin chart. It looks very similar. The pattern is very similar. So I would imagine the correlation to Bitcoin is pretty high. So remember, it's all about, when it comes to technical analysis, remember, it's all about looking for patterns and momentum. The news eventually aligns, right? But the patterns and the momentum, they're telling us something about how people are voting with their money. And we're seeing a visual of that, because that's what it is. That's what a chart is. It's just a visual representation of people voting with their money. It's not perfect, but it gives us a much better perspective than consuming hype and news and fundamental nonsense and tokenomics. I mean, that stuff can serve as maybe some background information to give you some extra context, but the charts really can give you much better timing possibilities and better risk management, because it can give you some precise levels and areas to look for certain types of price actions to occur or not. Remember, the market has to prove certain things, because the market is always right. We come up with an idea, and then the market has to prove that idea. And if it doesn't, we adjust, because the market is always right, not us. All right, so you guys know that. All right, cool. All right, guys, so I've been at it now for just an hour. Hope you guys got something out of the stream. If you haven't seen my earlier stream, check it out. We had a nice trade in there. Make sure you press the like button, subscribe, all that other stuff. It helps me out. I'm trying to do things to get my channel more, more recognition. It'd be nice. But either way, I love you guys for showing up. It's always helpful. If you haven't signed up for the Trade Scanner Pro, give it a try for 14 days. Make sure, if you don't want it, to cancel it before day 14. And also, if you try it, make sure that you watch my streams, because you're not going to figure it out on your own. It's just not intuitive. I need to teach you how to use it. And 3 days a week, I give free lessons. So check that out. All right, you guys. So again, thanks for stopping by. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And thanks for watching.